Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today in this tutorial I'm going to show you how we can fetch data from WordPress admin to our React Native app by using GraphQL. So here you can see a layout in which I'm showing some blog post which I'm fetching from my WordPress admin, and here you can see all those posts. So it is the featured image of that particular post, and this is the title, and after the title we have a learn more button. If we click on learn more, then we will be presented with the post, and here we can see the complete post. So we have the image, title and the post content, so that means our blog content for that post, right? So like that we can see other posts as well, and you can see for a fraction of second there was a loading text. So that time our app is fetching data from our WordPress admin, and then it is presenting the data in our app. And here we can see all the text formatting is present which we have done in our WordPress admin. Now let me show you. This is the WordPress admin, and here we have the post. So here you can see we have 4 posts which I have created, and you can see here also we have these 4 posts. And for this one, let's see, here I have done some formatting to my article content which we can see here, right? This is what I am going to show you today in this tutorial. So if you are interested in this kind of tutorial, then hit the like button, subscribe to my channel for more tutorials like this, and don't forget to hit the notification bell icon so that you get notified whenever I post a new tutorial on this channel. So without wasting any more time, let's get started with the tutorial. So here we are at the WordPress admin dashboard, and I have set up a WordPress website in my local host, and here I have created few posts within my WordPress setup, and I am going to fetch all these posts in our React Native app by using GraphQL. So for that, first we need to go to plugins, and we need to add a new plugin which is called WP GraphQL. So this is the plugin which we need to install. After installing the plugin, let's activate it. Now after activating it, here we can see in the menu we have a GraphQL menu. Now for the GraphQL we have settings for it. So this is the GraphQL endpoint. So if we visit this link, then we are seeing this error message. That means our endpoint is working perfectly fine. And now we can go to this GraphQL IDE to create our query and test it. So here we have different items listed over here which we can query by using GraphQL, and we are interested in posts. Then within edges node, let me select the title and the slug. Now let's run the query, and while I am selecting these items, our query is getting created. Now I can run this, and we have a response. So here we have a JSON response, and we can see we have the title and the slug for the posts which are available in this website. So this is the power of GraphQL. WordPress comes with inbuilt REST API, but in the REST API we will have different endpoints for different data from the site, and we will have some unnecessary data from a particular endpoint which is not needed in the front end. Like for the post, we are just querying title and slug, and that is what we are getting from our GraphQL query. But for the REST API endpoint for the post, we will get all the other extra information related to post, but not the exact data. Suppose we need author name, we need feature image URL. Those data we cannot get from the post endpoint. From the post endpoint we will get the author ID and featured image ID or thumbnail ID, but here we can query featured image quite easily. Let me do that, but before that I will require ID, and for the featured image, here we can query the source URL of the featured image for the post. Now let's run this, and here we can see we have the URL for the featured image available. So by using GraphQL we can pretty easily use WordPress as a headless CMS, and we can use this GraphQL query in any front-end UI, as right now we are going to use it in our React Native app. So this is the query which we need to use, and we are getting the JSON response in this structure. Now let's jump into React Native app. So here is our React Native app. This is a basic React Native app created with create React Native app command, and in this app I have installed React Navigation version 5. So as you can see, we have React Navigation container and the create stack navigator, and here we have two screens. One is the home screen, another one is detail screen. And within this app function we are returning the navigation container with these stack navigator screens, and here we can see the home screen, and if we click here then we are presented with the detail screen. And it is required because in the home screen we are going to display list of posts, and after clicking on any post we will be presented with the single post screen of that particular post, right? So that's why we will require the stack navigator. So this is the basic setup which I have done already. Now here in our project we need to install few packages, and those will be GraphQL, then the GraphQL tag, then React Apollo and Apollo Boost. So these are the packages which is required to use GraphQL in our app. Now hit enter. In our package.json we can see that Apollo Boost, GraphQL, GraphQL tag and React Apollo has been installed. Now we can use those packages and start creating our app. So first I'm creating a new folder called post, and within this directory I'm creating post.js file, and another file will be post.js, and this one will be for the single post. And here let me create React Native functional components quickly. So it will be post, and we will use post for the home screen, and for the details we are going to use post, and let me change the name of it to post as well. So we have imported those components, so right now we don't need these two components. And now let's import Apollo client from Apollo Boost, and from React Apollo let's import Apollo provider. And this Apollo client makes it easier to use GraphQL endpoint easily in our app. Let me show you. So here I'm creating a constant called client, and it will be new Apollo client. And for this Apollo client we can provide a URI, and that URI will be the endpoint of our GraphQL. So that means it will be this URL. We can copy it and paste it here, and then we need to wrap our application with this Apollo provider. So here is the Apollo provider, and within the Apollo provider we will have our rest of the app. And within this Apollo provider we need to pass the client, and that client will be this client which is containing the GraphQL endpoint. Now we can start working in this post.js file. So here within this post component we need to import query from React Apollo to use the GraphQL query here, and then we need to import GQL from GraphQL tag. Now here within post we can use the query within the return statement, and for this query we need to provide the query, and we can do that by using this GQL, then this backtick. Within this backtick we can provide our GraphQL query. So this is our query, so I can copy it and use it here within this curly brace, and it will give three state or three kind of data like loading, error and the data which is returned by this query. Here we can use the console log to see if we are getting the proper response from our query or not, and then we can use a return statement to create the UI. And right now I am using this default one. Later we will create the UI. Now first let's check the response, and to check the response we need to open the React Native debugger. Now let's debug our app. So click on debug with Chrome, and our app already reloaded. Now here we can see a response object So here we have post object, and within post object we have array, and here we can see we have featured image id slug title, similar to our response, right? So we are getting the data from our server perfectly. Now let's use those data in our app. First, here we need to use if it is loading, then we want to display a loading text, and when the data is available, then we will display that data in our app, and that will be data.post. So the hierarchy will be like this: data, post, edges, and within this edges we will have an array, and within the array we will have array values like this. So we will use data.post.edges.map to iterate through all the array items. So now here first return the title of the post. So it will be post, then node, then title. So this is the hierarchy we need to follow. Now let's save it. After saving it, we can see the post title is present over here, and here we need to use key. Now save it, and now I'm removing the center alignment, and let's add a 20 pixel padding. Now it's looking good. And now from here I want to pass some data to our next screen, which is post screen. So first let me create a button by using touchable opacity, and for the on press of it we will use the navigation to navigate to post screen, and for that here we will get the navigation prop, and we can use that prop here. So it will be navigation.navigate, and we want to navigate to post screen, which is this one. And along with this navigation I want to pass some parameter, and that parameter will be the id, and the id will be the post id. So it will be post.node.id, as we are getting the id response for each post, right? Now save it. Now let's see, we are going to the post screen. Now in the post screen we can get the props, and here we can get that parameter by using props.routes.params and the parameter which we have used, which is id, this one. Now save it. Okay, it will be route, not the routes. Now after saving it, let's see for the another test post we are seeing this id. For another post we will have a different id, so it is ending with do3, and let's see, it is ending with do1. So we are getting the different id for different posts. Now we can use this id to query our database for the information of that particular post. And this component is little more complicated than the previous component. So normally we do this export default and then the component name, right? But here for this component we need to export a higher order component, and in that higher order component we can pass this post component, and we need to import few things, which is GQL from GraphQL tag and this GraphQL from React Apollo. And the higher order component will be this GraphQL, and within this GraphQL first we need to provide the query, and then we can provide some option. Now first let's create the query, and that query will be the GraphQL query. So let me create that query here, and right now for this post we will be fetching the details for a particular post, and for that particular post we will get the id, which is this one. So it will be get post by id, and here we will accept id, and here it will be id type, and then we will get the post, and we will get the post by id, and that id will be the id which is passed to this function. Then we will get post title, then the content, and along with this we will get the featured image. So for the featured image we will get the source URL, and also for the source URL we can customize the size. So as you can see, large, medium, post thumbnail, we can query different sized of image, and for this one I will use medium image. So this is the query which we will use. So let me copy it, and here let's create a constant get post by id, and here within GQL we can provide that query. So here in this query we can use this get post by id, and for this option here it will be options, then we will get the props which we are getting for this component. So we can get the id here as well, as we have fetched it here. So here the const id equal to this props.route.params.id. So we are fetching the id. Now we can return this variable to our query. So within this return statement we can pass some variables, and for that variable I will pass this id, and this id will be this id, and after that here we will pass our actual component, and whatever response we will get from this query, that will be present in this prop. So let me console log this prop so that we can see what are the data we are getting back. Now save it. Let's first reload this. Okay, so we are getting the initial response. Now go to a single post page. Now after going to this post page, here we can see some object returns, and here we have the data, we have the route. From the route we are getting the id parameter. Now let's see, in the data we have this post object, and within this post object we can see we have the content, we have the title, and then the content, right? So we are getting the response back perfectly. Now we can use this data to display here. So here instead of this post id I can use props data, and then within this data we have this post object, and within this post object we have this title, right? So it is the post, then the title. Now save it. So here we can see the post title, and here I am getting an error. That is because first time it's not loading the data. We have to handle the loading state here as well, and that we can do by providing a checking. If props.data.post is not available, then we will return a loading text. Let's see. Now we are seeing the data perfectly, and we can see the loading text for a brief moment, right? So now it's working perfectly fine. Now we can start styling our components. So the main purpose of this tutorial has been completed. We are fetching the data perfectly fine. Let me provide another text to display the content. So here we are getting the content, and I don't want to use this alignment. I will use the padding 20. So here we can see that we have this HTML tags present for the content. So here we need to display text with the HTML content rendered properly, and for that we need to use this React Native render HTML package. So we need to copy this command to install it in our project. So I have added it. Now hit enter. Now we can use it as import HTML from React Native render HTML, and for this one we need to get the device width to provide the content width, and that I can do from use window dimensions from React Native dot width. And instead of this text I can provide the HTML component and then provide source of it, and here I need to provide the HTML, and that HTML will be this one. And for the content width I can provide the content width which I have created. Now save it. We can see that it is rendering the HTML content perfectly fine. Now we need to use image for the featured image. So after this text I will use image. For the image source URI I will use props data post. Then within this post we will get this featured image object, and within this we have node, then the source URL. So it will be featured image node then source URL. Let me check it. Okay, that's perfect. And I will provide resize mode cover, and let me provide some stylings as well. For the width of it I will use 100%. For the height I will use 200. For border radius I will use 15 pixel, and for the margin bottom I will use 5 pixel. Now let's see. So it's looking fine. Now let's provide some styling for this text, which is our title. So let's provide a font size of 18 pixel, then a font weight bold, and a margin bottom for 10 pixel. Now let's save it. So it's looking good. We are completed with the UI of this single post page. Now let's provide some styling for this home page as well, which is our post component. So here also similarly we want to provide some image. So I can copy this image and use it here before the title, and make sure to import the image from React Native. Now let's see. And here it will not be props.data.post, it will be post.node.featuredImage, then the rest of the part. Now save it. After saving it we can see those images, but we cannot scroll it, so we need to use the scroll view, and we have to import that from React Native as well. Now we can scroll it. Now let's provide some styling and spacing in between these components. So for the title let's provide a font size 16 pixel, and let's provide a font weight bold. And then for this view let's provide a style which is the margin bottom 10 pixel. Okay, let's make it 20, and let's provide border radius differently here. I want to provide border radius at the top side but not at the bottom side, so it will be border top right radius 15 and border top left radius 15. Okay, so like this. So now we are completed with our tutorial. I hope you have learned something new from this tutorial. If you do so, then hit the like button, subscribe to my channel for more tutorials like this, and let me know by commenting down below. If you have any kind of suggestion for me, then also let me know, and share this tutorial with your friends and colleagues. And I will see you guys in my next tutorial. In the meantime, have a great day. Goodbye.